Hi guys, Shanna Kramer here with Creatively Uncorked, bringing you this week's Creative Box Live, Creative Just Live Painting. This is Thistle Flower. It is the end of August 2021, and this is our challenging painting of the month. The challenging things about this painting are going to be mixing colors, including the greens and purples, which can be some of the most challenging colors to mix, especially with our basic palette. We have red, yellow, blue, black, and white. No black even today. Couple of brushes that I have, and you can use what you have, but I have a large flat brush, and this is for covering my background. I have a medium angle shader, which I just love these for doing little straight lines, and this painting is full of them. The medium filbert, which is just a good standard brush for anything that you're painting that might be organic, and a small round. All right, so the first thing that we are going to do with this canvas today is cover it with paint. Take your biggest brush, dunk that in some water. Hopefully you've got your canvas sketched already. And then I'll just go ahead and take some red and some blue. We're going to mix up a nice purple and cover the background with it. Now the red and the blue, these are both transparent colors, so if you're mixing water with it, I've got my pencil sketch here, but if I put too much thick paint over this, it will cover up my pencil. I don't want to do that. So instead, I'm just going to add a touch of water to my already transparent paints and then paint right over my pencil drawing. Keeping it thin. This is basically like a wash, or this is also called toning the canvas. So you're just putting a basic color down on the canvas. It's usually, when you're doing a toning, it's usually a middle color, like not too dark, not too light. Which this certainly is. So we've got our purple, and if you mix purple and green, it does turn into a very dark color. So that's why we are not using black on this painting, because we have the background's going to be purple, and then we'll paint green over it, which is going to combine into a dark color. That's another benefit of using transparent colors, is you can just layer them, and they'll continue getting darker and richer. Where if you're using more opaque colors, you choose the color you want, you put it where you want it, and there it stays. All right, if you are painting the edges of your canvas, go ahead and do that now. Make sure the whole front of the canvas is covered first, so we can give that a little bit of a chance to dry. All right, I am going to hit the mute button and go ahead and blow dry this. So if you want to pause a moment, hit pause, let your background dry, and then join me in a few minutes. I'll see you soon. All right, the edges are still slightly damp, but that is not going to get in the way of our next steps. The next thing we're going to do is add our background. And if you take a look up here at the original, we can see that there are a nice variety of colors in this background. And to the upper right of that giant thistle flower, there's another flower growing in the background, but it's kind of muted back, and it doesn't stand out too much. It's just there. So we're going to add that background color and that small thistle as well. Cleaning out my brush, and I'll take a big old glob of yellow. Oh, I don't think I cleaned my brush out well enough. Still a lot of purple in it. Okay. And then some blue. Just mixing these two colors together. We're going to have a variety of shades of green, so, don't worry if it's not exactly right, because you're going to end up mixing some lighter colors over here, some darker colors over there, maybe even add some red to it, maybe even some white to it. So, loaded up brush, and then I'll just go ahead and start pulling in my background colors. And I'm just doing this as pretty choppy. We want interesting backgrounds. Okay, maybe I'll take a little bit of white in there. Not too much white. Let's try to save the white for the overpainting instead of the underpainting. Okay, so another reason I'm doing these little choppy brush strokes is because I'm bringing this outside in close to that thistle flower. There, so now I'm getting kind of those choppy, take a look at the top of that flower there. And it's kind of choppy looking, and we want to get that in there. Adding a little bit of variety of color again. Maybe I'll try a little bit more red up in here, maybe a little more yellow. So this upper right corner, this is where we're going to have the most interesting part of the background, because that's where we have kind of another thistle flower starting to grow over there. So I'll make sure that I have all my background in, and then I'll come back up and deal with this a little bit more thoroughly. So for now, I'm just going to continue on with my background. And generally, I'll want my paintings to be a little bit darker on the bottom than the top, for no real reason other than it anchors them. Like the sense of weight being on the bottom is much stronger if you have a darker bottom. It kind of helps the painting sit upright, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm just kind of blotching in some paint here. I'm not covering every little speck of the background either, because I don't care if the purple shows through. It looks nice. That's why we put purple there in the first place, so that some of it would show. There we are, just some nice little varieties of colors, and I see you're getting some reflection there, so let's just tilt it up. Yeah, and I'll just kind of make sure I'm continuing to paint the negative space here, which is everything that's not the thistle flower. Keep my choppy edges, keep my interesting shapes and lines. I like kind of these interesting globs of colors around here. Okay, let's go ahead then and add our background thistle. All right, so let's take a look at the original for a second. And you can see up in the upper right corner, there are some different lines, different shapes, just some different colors that kind of just hint that there's another flower back there. So I'll just take all of the paint out of my brush just by wiping it on the paper towel. Don't need to do a super duty rinse clean. Touch of white, touch of that light green. And I'm leading with the skinny edge, right? So I'm using the fat brush, but I'm leading with the skinny edge. All right, I'm gonna take a little bit of white, a little bit of purple. And by purple, I mean just dip it in the yellow and blue there. So I'm just hinting at a couple of little purple lines up here. How's that looking? Pretty good. All right, I'll try a little bit more yellow. Okay, that is pretty bright. I think I might want it a little bit more muted than that. So wiping that yellow paint back off again. Picking up some, let's see. Actually, that looks pretty okay. I don't mind that. But I'll go back to some purple. I'll take a little bit of purple, a little bit of green. There, just hinting at that thistle flower in the background. All right, I don't want to go too overboard. I'm just going to let that one be as is. And now we will take our second break, let this background dry, and then we'll come back and work on our thistle a little bit more. So I'm going to hit the mute button, blow dry my painting. You hit pause and come back when you're ready to move on. This is mostly dry now, and we are ready to move on to the next step. So I'm just using my same brush. Go ahead and wipe the paint out of there. Give it a good rinsey rinse. And we are going to switch to purple so that we can work on the thistle itself. And let's see, do we want to use this brush? I'm thinking so. I definitely think so. Okay, so a darker reddish purple, blue and red. Okay, and I think I can even add, I'm not sure if I want to add white to this yet. Okay, not yet. Let's try with some dark purples. Tilting my canvas up so you can kind of see these brush strokes. You could use an angle shader for this. You can use a smaller flat for this. You could use a small round, but that would be a little like torture because they don't hold very much paint. You're going to be doing this forever. These big brushes, they hold a lot of paint. All right, and we don't need to get too detailed right now. Just be sure that you're leading with the skinny edge. Angle shader works great for this, and I might find myself switching over to the angle shader pretty soon. Just make sure that you're following the shape of the flower. So we're starting in the center and going out and up. So out and up, curve up. Just using the very corner of the brush. Okay, now we might want to lighten that up a little bit. So let's go with some more white. Heck, how about some more red? Why not? Okay, so now we've got practically a pink color on here now. And don't forget, we still have yellow, so if we want to do some super duty changing up of this thistle flower color, we have that privilege and right. Okay, so now we've got some nice reds in there. We've got a couple of different colors, so I'm going to start changing it up now. Just wiping off that brush. And let's see, I want some lighter colors. And I want it to be more blue than purple, but still purple. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Artistic license, that's what we'll call it. You can make this any color you want, any shape you want, any way you want. Use your artistic license. You know what that means. Normal people have to follow rules, but not you. You're an artist. You do things the way you want to do them. And if your mom argues with you, you tell her, but Mom, I'm an artist. All right, not trying to get anybody in trouble here. Okay, I'm going to put that big brush away for now and switch to the small round because I think I've got a pretty good base layer in here. But now I want to get some of the little nuances. And if you take a look up at the original, you can see that that looks really fuzzy, but also like curved, where with this big flat brush, I'm only getting straight lines. That's great on a thistle, but on the thistle flower, I want a little bit of action happening in here. Okay, tilting up slightly so you don't get too much of a reflection. And let's see, let's do some soft blue purples. It's a little more white, kind of the color that we just had. And this time I'm adding a little bit more water to the paint and stirring it up just so that it flows more smoothly. And here we go. So now I'm doing little curve lines. And I know some of these might seem really dark right now, but I'm going to be adding layers and layers and layers of thistle colors because that purple is a very difficult purple to match. So we're just going to build it up in layers, and that is going to help it blend. Instead of coming up with the exact color right away, we'll just modify our color as we go. I'd like to say easy peasy, but it'll take a little bit of practice. But this is the challenging painting of the month, so that's what we're here for. All right, how are we doing with the blue? A little too much? Okay, let's go back to pink. All right, so I'm back over here on the pink part of the plate. Mixing up a lighter pink. Add more water, keep it flowing smoothly. There we are. And we'll get some of this added in. Oh, that's a nice color. I like this color. Very, very thistle-y. What do you think? Ooh, nice, nice. Okay, pick up some more paint, keep it thin, keep it liquidy. Oop. Well, good news. That was the luckiest brush drop I've done all day. Didn't even land on the canvas. And no, a brush drop is not like a mic drop. A brush drop is just because I'm clumsy. Yep, this is going to get a little tedious. Just keep going. Just keep swimming. All right, so we're getting plenty of different colors in there. I like all the colors. And you can just keep blending away at this if you like, or you can take a break, come back later and do more later. I'm going to take some regular old purple here and kind of blend up from the bottom. Thistle flower purple is a hard color to even photograph. I mean, if you take a picture, well, granted, I don't have any professional photography equipment. However, I do have a phone that color corrects, and it always changes the color of the purples and the sunrises and the sunsets. Like you can see this beautiful pinkish orangish sunrise. You take a picture and it just goes flat. Okay, onward. Let's start with that. The thistle. I guess it's the stem and the leaves, isn't it? Okay, so this time I think I will actually switch to my angle shader. And I'll start by using this dark green. Woo! Brand new angle shader. Bristles are really stiff. Just get a good mush on the bottom there, loosen it up. All right, here we are. So I've got the yellow and blue. There might possibly be a little red or whatever other colors I mixed into my green here. And I'll just kind of follow along where I decided that stem was going to go. And there's going to be a dark side of the stem and there's going to be a highlight side of the stem. So we're just adding the dark side of the stem right now. A little more water in that paint. Thin it out. Okay. So then I've got this nice little petal. Going to be sharp and spiky here pretty soon. And I think it's blending too much. So let's go ahead and add another color. Okay, so there's going to be the light side of the stem, which I'm mostly adding now just because I couldn't see it. It blended in too nicely with the background. There. Just little curves of the brush. So I'm bringing this up and out, up and out. See that? And then later when we add some spikes to this, it's going to look sharp. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So I am going to bring in some darker colors in here. And when you're trying to darken your green, you have a couple of options. You can add blue or you can add red. All right, so I've got another, let's try some white mixed in this green. I have another petal or another leaf over here. And right up at the top of this, let's see, I have another great big leaf right there. Okay, so when I'm adding those brush strokes on, the pointy end is following, if that makes sense. Okay, so if you watch how the brush strokes go on, and that'll get you some nice sharp lines. All right, so we're also going to have some dark green, okay? Aha, so now we're getting some color in there. See that? If you blend the color too much, it all turns the same color. If you don't blend the color, then you get some interesting variations. There, just little sharp brush strokes like so. There. Now we're going to have some sharp parts on our thistle. That one as well is going to have some light areas because see how it just kind of fades into the background? So let's brighten that sucker up. Okay, and if it looks a little bit messy to you, just step back, take a look at it from across the room, because I promise you it's not as bad as you think when your nose is up to it. This is a kind of a loose, free style of painting, and it's always looks messy close up. Take a look from a distance. All right, so let's see, we've got all this purple in here under that thistle flower, so I'm just going to pick up some purple, I'm sorry, some blue. This is how we're getting our depth. We're getting some layers now, so I have some dark green, or blue as we might know it, and so I'm just darkening up some of that green, some of those areas around the flower, and then I'll come back over the top of that with some lighter colors. And if you take a look at the original up here, you can see, look at those thistle, the greens on the thistle. So we've got some really dark darks in there and some really light lights. So that's what I'm after with this. I'm building up those layers to get all of those colors. All right, so how are we doing? Okay, looking okay. I think I want more darks though. Cleaning off that brush, let's go after a, how about a nice purple, a dark purple. Like I was telling you earlier, if you want a really, really dark green, mix purple with it. Which is, if you break it down to its basics, putting red in it. Right, just wanting some big contrasty sharp areas. Oh, I like that. Yeah, I'm getting some interesting colors in there, man. I think purple is just a beautiful shadow color for green. Just amazing. Just love it. It doesn't have to look realistic. It just has to look interesting. And a friend of mine, Grace Haverty, says, accurate lines are not anywhere near as important as interesting lines. So make interesting lines. I like that rule. I completely took it to heart. Oh, now we've got some interesting darks and lights and shapes and flow. You see how it's flowing now? Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, I do like that. Let's see if I can get some dark shadows out here because I'll be covering those with light greens, but I want the shadows first. Ooh, how lovely. Okay. In case it's getting a little hard to tell what I'm doing, this is a shadow. I'll be putting some light green over this so we can get our leaves back. And I'm probably going to go over this flower a little bit more once I have the greens done. Alrighty, rinsing that brush. It's kind of fun when you start mixing colors. You get to do whatever colors you want, make them any way you want. So now I have some yellow, touch of white, and I'm just mixing it right onto the green. So if it picks up some green, good. If not, whatever. So now I'm going to add some light brights. Oh, bright lights, light bright. We've still got all those spikes to add. Yeah, I think I'm switching to the smaller brush for this now. Starting to struggle a little with that bigger brush, so that means it's time to switch. So I'll just go ahead and pick up that white, yellow, super light in the green there. Keep it thin, keep it watery, okay? And let's see, where do we want to put that? Oh, all over. Just, we have some brights that we just need to add to it. And if you want to start calling these spikes or whatever those sharp parts of thistles are called, just make them straight lines. They're not curvy, they're not bendy. I know we've got quite a flow going on in this painting right now, but when you start working on those little stickers, they're straight out. And I think maybe I'm going to switch brushes for that, because a round brush doesn't make straight lines. So we'll switch to a flat brush for that. So for now, I'm just going to do some little spikes off the edges of some of these petals. Are they petals? Leaves? Anyway, just adding some contrast and highlights in here. Nice, very nice. More white, more yellow, more water. And if you're looking at this up close, you're going to kind of go, wow, that's a boom, powerful color. And you are right. But that's what you want. There, we're getting some nice little sharp parts. See, and that is right over my shadow. So I went in with that purple shadow, and now I'm coming over with the bright greens, bright whites, and now it's really popping. All right, taking a little bit of a darker green. Maybe I'll switch back to the angle shader now for a minute. You should see these poor paintings behind me. Every time I rinse my brush, I kind of flick it. Which when I'm painting outside is not so terrible, but when I'm painting in my studio, not great. Not great at all. Because there are paintings everywhere in here, and they're all getting paint showers. Okay, so I'll let that be, and I'll move on to this petal over here on the left side. And I've got some nice darks in there now. I keep calling it a petal, but it's probably actually a leaf. Not enough variety. Let's start mixing up our colors. I don't mind that. Nice, nice, okay. Looking pretty good. Wow, I kind of like this. Okay, so before I get too involved, I think I might have to find a small flat brush. And a small flat brush is going to work for those thistle stickers. Oh, this might be the flat I'll use then. Okay. Rinsing out the big brush. Rinsing out the little brush. Okay, set that aside, and now I have my small flat brush, and let's do some stickers. Okay, that's going to be mostly white. Very light. I'll take some of this yellowy green, and more watery. Has to be flowing. If it's not flowing, it's not going to work. Okay, so now because I know I have a lot of water on this brush right now, I'm just going to tap it on the paper towel for a couple of seconds, and that will absorb a lot of the water without absorbing a lot of the paint. Some, yes, of course, but not a lot. Okay, so now I'm just tapping gently with the edge of the brush. And I can see that we're going to need some more color varieties here. Can't have the same pale green on everywhere. This is just a light, gentle tap. And these stickers do stick pretty much straight out. No curves. Which is the part I struggle with, because tree branches, all those things, I just want to make all of it curved and flowy, organic-y. Okay, I'll try a little bit more yellow just to add some variety in the color. And this part is going to get a little tedious, but just keep going. Just keep going. The most important part of a thistle are the stickers. How do you know if it's a thistle otherwise, right? So just little taps. Keep your paint liquidy. Add water as necessary. Change up the color. There, just little taps, little taps. Let's see, maybe a little bit more orangey. I mean, what the heck, right? It's our painting, we'll do what we want. And we're starting to get a lot of spikes in there. Now that we've got a new color on the brush, just kind of tap in a few of those stickers in a few places where we already have stickers, just to keep the variety going. A little more white. A little more water. Okay, try not to get my arm in the way here. So now we've got that nice purple underneath, giving it a good shadow. And then we take the lighter color stickers and it just punches up that contrast. I just love it. How's that looking? Getting a little too similar in the colors here, aren't we? So we're gonna have to start changing that up. Maybe after a few more spikes over here. Maybe a few more spikes down the stem. And remember, these spikes are sticking out all over. They're not facing one direction, they're kind of facing out. So whichever way that stem's facing, they stick out. What do you think? Is it looking spiky? I think it's not looking too terrible. I think I want to put a few more highlights up in the upper right here, a little tiny bit. Keep the flow interesting. Okay, so that, I think I'm going to quit pretty soon with the greens and go back to the purples. I think the purples are looking pretty okay, but I also want to get a much finer, thinner line and some soft floofies. So back to my small round, starting with some white paint. And what color floofies do we want? How about really, really super light pink? I like that pink color. Don't stick your hand in wet paint. More water. Gotta keep it thin and flowing smoothly. There, it's starting to get a little softer and wispier. More white than that, I think, though. I want this light, light, light. I need some contrast in this painting. Contrast will draw your eye. Contrast meaning a light against a dark. Well, that's a contrasting color. So where you have the most contrast is going to be where your eye is drawn. So where do you want people to look at this painting? Definitely want them to see the fuzzy purples. So we've got some dark purples, some light purples. some whites, some blues. See, more water. Gotta keep it flowing, because once that paint stops flowing, better stop painting. Well, I think that's getting to be pretty darn good. Much better. Just keep building up your layers until you're happy with what you see. Yeah, I think this is looking pretty good. I might even try a little bit of yellow in that pink. You know, for variety. Ooh, not that much. Well, maybe none at all. Okay, didn't really like that. How are we doing? Are we thinking that's fuzzy enough, or do we need a little bit more fuzzies? I'll go back to the pink again. And add a little bit more over here. Our background purple on this one is pretty dark, so we don't want to cover it all. Keep it there. But we can definitely add a little more lights. You know, I don't want to go too overboard. I think I might leave it alone. Okay. Last final touch, I'm going to add a couple of little greens in here. Just kind of right up in here. Get that contrast of the green against the purple. And to get that contrast, we're going to have to lighten it up a touch. So here we go. There we are. And at this point, I am going to call it quits. Brush in the water. You'll want to go ahead and add your signature to this beauty because we did a fantastic job. I know you did. So if you want to share your painting, go ahead and post that on our Facebook group because I'd love to see it. And if you want any one-on-one critique, just send it to me directly, Shanna at creativeboxlive.com, and I'll respond to you. So thank you for painting along with me today, and I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you next week.